Oh, you can't see that here. Hang on. There we go with the tabs on the bottom. And each week has its own spreadsheet. So, Kappa Alpha, Spring, Week 1. March 27th. Wow, that's really tough to see. There we go. The Boulanger bread delivery, Galley Produce, Alsco Linen, Buy Right Groceries, Donald M. Hughes Supplies, Costco and Safeway for open kitchen, and social activity. So every week you guys track this stuff. One of the new things next year, FMs, we're not only going to track in Excel, we're going to track on QuickBooks. And once a month, you're going to bring in your bank statements. And it'll take about, I've been doing a trial with Matt Sprague at Mars, Claire Teeter at Tridelt, and Catherine Hawthorne at Kairos. We found out that it takes probably less than 30 minutes a month to sit there, and what we do is we reconcile your bank statement with your check register and this. So we now are going to be auditing on a monthly basis to make sure that your stuff is accurate, and the reason we're doing that is that we've zeroed out your assets. They're all in CRF now. So our goal has been to get it to the point where you only are able to spend what is collected in any given year. We're no longer allowing this wishy-washy stuff where old assets are suddenly go missing. Okay? So another big change for next year. But long story short, you can see here, Kappa Alpha, their actual average as of week 6, 3,413. Their target was 3,972, and their actual is 4,311. It computes that we're expecting them to have a surplus of 9,580. That's fantastic. Okay. One of the other big changes that's coming up this year for self-ops is that we're going to do distributed payroll. What we discovered this past year is we standardized board bills across the entire row, but services weren't standardized. So the people at Hal Smith paid the same amount of money that the people at Kappa Alpha did, but the people at Hal Smith do hashing. Next year, because we found that the larger houses had these big surpluses and the smaller houses didn't and didn't have a hasher, instead of doing variable costs per house, we're changing them to fixed costs. Anybody tell me what I just said in English? Anybody take accounting 91? No, okay. Variable costs are fixed costs are variable. We're going to take the payroll next year to per capita, which means that the large houses will pay their fair share, the small houses will pay less. And it's going to give the small houses the ability to have hashers, 40 hours of hashing a week plus 10 hot meals. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic because the other thing it does is it allows us to switch employees around without penalizing the employee or the house. Because we have some employees that have been around for a long time. Sandy at Jerry House has been here 35 years. Helga Turnston at Kappa Sig sadly doesn't want to return to Kappa Sig, but he does want to return to the row. He's been here 35, 40 years. Those guys are friends of mine, and I would love to see them be able, and they're going to be able to move around. So long story short, it's going to be great. And here's what we discovered this year. We discovered that in the fall, the total surplus collected by all the houses was $140,000. That's self-ops, not co-ops. Just self-ops, $140,000. In the winter, it was $112,000. In this quarter, probably about $40,000 to $60,000. What adding the 8 full-time hashers to places like Muwekma, Hal Smith, etc. will do, Roth, 717 will do, is it's going to cost an extra $50,000 a quarter. So in fall quarter alone, by the distributed model, we pay for it. So the good news is I'm really hoping and pushing that barring changes to food prices because of fuel prices and inflation, that we're going to be able to hold board bill rates the same next year. So that's good news for everybody. And that's something you'll want to mention further down on the sheet. We talk about in-house draw. In-house draw is coming up. So your residents may be curious as to what the charges will be. And what I would tell them is outside chance, 4% increase, likely 2% increase, and if all goes well, no increase year to year. Although, as I said, the weight might get changed. So it might be a little heavier because there's a couple more days, like 4 more days in the fall. And we're also discovering that the surplus is a little bit thin in the spring. So it might look, instead of like this kind of curve, it might look a little bit like that. But, sorry for you guys. Okay. So long story short, please get that going. Okay, June 1st to June 11th, incoming FMs, outgoing FMs. We'll meet with Zach Sargent to review any expected damage bills. Okay, I highly recommend doing that. If you're an incoming FM, do yourself the favor of making sure that this year's FM has collected the damage deposit in fact, and that there is the money to pay for any damages that you're expecting from housing. It's also your chance to dispute stuff while the current staff and current residents are still there. Okay. Next page, incoming FMs. You can meet with Nick Peters to review the 09-10 budget activity and assess any potential refunds, problems, and questions. Okay, I am not going to make this mandatory. This is for your benefit. However, following houses may find it extremely beneficial because you're not exactly running in the black right now. 717 East Italian, no, I'm sorry, Jerry, Mars, House Smith, Story, Terra, and Theta Delta. You guys are all running predicted a little bit negative right now. I've already been in contact with those current FMs. I'm working closely with them, but you'll want to be jumping on top of them and making sure that they have paid every vendor for sure. All of you are going to want to make sure of that, but those houses especially. Okay? So this is going to be your chance for you to sit down with me with the current FM, and what we do is I'm going to be able to help ask the questions that in 4 months you'd wish you'd known to ask. Make sense? So we're just going to make sure that they've actually dotted their I's and crossed their T's. Okay, at the end of the year, mandatory, this is the one mandatory thing for new FMs, is that you need to turn in this third sheet which lists your plans on what you're going to do and that you're signing your life away on various things. One is the turnover or storage of materials. There are actual physical materials related to being an FM, such as the checkbooks, the deposit stamps, the bank statements, old financial records, records of students who are put on hold, things like that. They may not all be in this master budget workbook. I sure hope they are. And I definitely encourage all houses to get all their spreadsheets collapsed into this master budget, because as I said, I don't care. Unless someone overseeing parties or something like that comes to us with a problem and I have to audit you, I could care less what you put in here. Your Greek activities, etc., I just don't care. Okay, let me show you a couple things to look out for. AR tracking. I'm sorry, what's your name? Jane. Jane? Jane knew what AR is, accounts receivable. You can see here, Kappa Alpha, no new residents. But if I scroll all the way back to fall, there's all the residents. Okay, so Kappa Alpha, you're going to want to talk to Stephen. I'm not seeing the permanent mailing addresses. So you want to get those permanent mailing addresses and make sure Stephen gets them into this sheet. Okay? Because that's the only way you're going to be able to contact everybody and send them their refunds, if any, which as we discovered could be close to $10,000 this quarter. Okay?